Oh, okay. Good afternoon. How are you doing, Jim?
Doing great. Pleasure to be here, my friend. It's
Yeah.
truly an honor.
Well, definitely honor is mine. And uh, the first time I heard about you actually is from Jeremy Miller. Uh,
Sure.
and I was in the graduation, and you gave a speech there. And so, yeah, it's the first time I heard about you. And also at that time, your message is in a way kind of controversial. Uh, and I run into the same opposition too, is trying to bring up entrepreneurship. Not parents, especially moms, they are not ready for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you feel something like that? Some pushback
Some
from
resistance to the entrepreneurial mindset.
right?
You know, yes. And I think the way I'd like to respond to that is any opposition that we feel to the entrepreneurial message probably means we aren't communicating it clearly enough. Because I believe, and I share this all the time, excuse me, I've got my
Mm,
own podcast, and that's what I
right.
teach people is
Oh,
entrepreneurship,
wonderful.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and and a continuous theme is right now is the best time in all of human history to launch or start or grow a business.
Exactly.
And so even if you go to college, and even if you're a stay-home mom busy with 3 kids, or even if you're retiree, or even if add in whatever you want to put in there, if you've got a few extra hours a week, instead of watching Netflix, start a business.
Yeah.
That should not be a controversial message.
No, I think in a way, at least from my personal experience, is that when I had no problem talking to the dads. Uh, it's
Yeah,
it's really the moms, and I think
sure.
what's uh in their the picture in their mind is someone who is struggling and someone who is I mean, it's hard to be an entrepreneur, especially in the past. Now become a lot easier because the cost of entry is pretty
Yes.
low now.
You
But
can
in
test small. Yeah.
right,
You can
yeah,
fail small. You can learn your lessons as you go,
right,
for sure. And specifically, you and I, with our biblical worldview, Pingman, we understand there's roles for men and there's roles for women, and mom and a dad have very different roles. And there is an edge of caution that the mom brings, and that's needed.
right,
Otherwise we'd be jumping off cliffs with
right,
parachutes, nothing on to
exactly.
control us, tell us we're stupid as men,
Yeah,
right?
well,
So
I know.
we need our moms, but I guess the message to the moms is, if you've got an entrepreneurial and I believe, Pingman, I believe all young people are entrepreneurial
Oh
until
yeah,
it's beat out of us by
right,
the
right.
system.
I mean, I definitely see that because when I was at the GCA, I teach a class, right, and at the middle school level. I mean, at that level, they enjoy doing business, and
Mhm.
also you probably have that. I mean, like even when I was a little, we trade, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's we
I remember
enjoy
going to
doing
school and you'd bring baseball cards and trade them for, candy, and,
right,
just that whole, I've got something of value, you've got something of value, let's trade. And we both leave better off than when we
right,
started.
and
That's all business ever has been. That's all it ever will be. It just
right,
happens that it's easier now than it ever has been to have a side business because of the internet, the way it's changed the rules of the game. And that's a
exactly.
topic I can get very passionate about
Oh
very
yeah.
quickly. But for the but for maybe a concerned parent, we don't have to lump all moms in together. Some moms are all very
Right.
pro entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
But for the concerned parents out there that see their young person starting to think about entrepreneurship, I would say never squelch it. Always encourage it. There's no good argument for driving that out of your child,
Right.
because that entrepreneurial spirit, I teach this, Pingman. Once you have a job, let's say you go and you get a traditional job, you're still in business.
Right.
You are in
Exactly.
business. You have one customer, and that's the person that writes your paycheck.
Right.
Some of us choose to have businesses with more than one customer, but
Yeah.
you're in business. Your performance matters. You have to serve your customer well if you want to get paid. And if you don't serve them well, you don't get paid. So
Right.
sometimes when I share that example, Ping, and people say, well, no, if I work at a grocery store, for example, I may see 100 customers a day. Those are my customers. I would say, no, those aren't your customers. They aren't paying you.
Right.
They're paying the person that writes your paycheck. You have one
Exactly.
customer.
Right.
So, regardless of which direction you're going in life, if you're going to add value and serve others well, which is all business is, you're going to have to approach it with an entrepreneurial spirit. You're going to have to serve well.
Exactly. It's just like, I mean, like you talk about like it basically kids get beat out of that spirit. I mean, I 100% agree with that. I mean, that's what I see, and that's also my experience. Like when I was growing up, once you got to high school, then you should go to college, right?
As the default. Right.
I mean, that's the only path.
Mhm.
There's, I mean, if you're not getting to college, that's the end of you. I mean, in China, it's definitely is very, very competitive. And still, when I at the GCA, I see that mentality too. I mean, the kids have to go to college. It doesn't matter which college. They just have to go to college.
Yes.
And if you
And
don't go to college, somehow you are considered a failure, which is, you know, not really not helpful at all.
you don't have to look very far to find the facts and the data and the statistics that back up the sentiment that I think, one of the points that I'd like to make today is you're foolish to think that's the default best option for all kids for all situations.
Right.
I mean, I just look in my neighborhood here. There's people making $100,000-$200,000 a year because they're willing to get their hands dirty,
Mm-hmm.
and they started their business, and they're landscaping or
Right.
something outdoor handyman type of work. There's a lot of money to be made there.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not even necessarily going to go down that road to make the point I'm trying to make, that in the some of the more traditional, the plumbing and the getting your hands dirty type of work. There's so much of that out there.
Right.
I'm going to try to make the point and drive the point home. I think it's more a platform I'm comfortable with is no matter what road you go down, you should be starting a business on the side. And
Mm.
very quickly, that business could become your primary source of income where you don't need an employer
Right.
anymore. And you can replace, we have many people, the community that I serve, it's people who use the internet creatively all over the world to
Mm-hmm.
launch and grow multiple income streams from home
Right.
primarily.
Right.
And I can't tell you the number of times, Pingdon, where I've had people who are in college, maybe they're a freshman or a sophomore, and they've launched a business and they're making so much money that they're trying to convince their parents that it's okay for them to drop out of school because some of the
Right.
classes that they're forced to take,
Yeah.
gender studies and some of
Right.
these
Right.
crazy just waste of time classes that you have to take before you can get your degree in what it is you
Right.
really want to study.
Yeah.
And I've found myself, and I try not to enter into those debates, it's between you and your parents, but what an interesting debate. No, you have to finish school. Why? Well, because it's important. Why is it important? So you
Right.
can make an income. Well, I'm making way more money and I can stop going into debt. The opportunities are
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And you put on top of that some of the best universities in the world with, there's still many good professors out there that have a lot
Mm.
of knowledge to share. They're not all
Right.
trying to teach,
Right.
17th century gender studies or whatever. It's just
Right.
there's a lot of complete waste of time topics out there for many of us.
Yeah.
But you can find their lectures for free on YouTube.
Exactly. Yeah. Actually, I have been listening to Jordan Peterson. I really
Love Jordan.
Right. I learned a lot from him. But the thing is that he was making the argument that he said that you can either have a free uh Harvard education, or you can spend the money and get a piece of paper. Your choice.
It's just a piece of paper.
But
It
because
really
you
is.
I mean you can go there and you can sit in the class without paying the tuition. That's his I mean it's really that's the case because, and also in a way, because we have been like, I was in that boat. My kids young, we just kind of say you have to go to college, right? There's no negotiation. You go to college because we have been conditioned in that. You go to college, then you can go to middle class, right? If you don't go to college, you don't. When I was teaching at
Lower class.
GCA, I was basically telling the same message because I think the statistic data is wrong. I mean, they look at static data and say, okay, if you're only high school, uh, you only graduate from high school, you make this much money. If you grad college, you got to make this much money. If you get a PhD, you got to make that much money. I mean, those data means there, but the statistic is not the truth.
Yes. I've seen those studies. You're more likely you'll make $1 million more over the course of your lifetime if you attend college versus you don't, and all that. Right. No, I had a statistics minor. I did go to college. I
Right.
had a few good professors. If I had it to
Right.
do all over again,
Mm.
I would have taken 5 or 10 classes, not
That's
70.
right.
And I would have
Exactly.
learned what I needed and not
Right.
gone into debt. But one of the things I learned with my statistics minor was a statistic like that was just thrown out, and you hear it presented that way quite frequently. You're more
Right.
likely to earn $2 or $3 million or whatever numbers they use if you have a college degree versus if you don't.
Right.
There is not enough data points presented in that argument for that to be an intelligent argument.
Right.
It's simply not enough data. You need to ask a lot of questions. So I'm very skeptical of that.
Yeah.
And I see students by the hundreds of thousands in our nation who have debt and they're settling for jobs that they could have easily gotten without a degree.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it starts to make a lot of sense that we need to be asking more questions as a culture and not sending kids as a default
Yeah.
straight to college.
It's all come down to because things has changed, but our concept hasn't. Our habit hasn't. Right. I mean, we are the creature of habit. That's
Yes.
what our parents told us, and we tell our kids. But things has changed dramatically.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
mentioned here, I mean, think about the college tuition skyrocketed, right? So you get tons of debt, and then there are just too many college graduates, and so there are not enough jobs, right? Which
Yes.
really need a degree in, so you start working like at Starbucks or something like that.
Yeah, there's plenty of opportunity out there, but it's not necessarily, you don't necessarily get an advantage because you've got a piece of paper that you paid a few $100,000 for.
Right.
I can tell you this: I've hired and brought people on the team and worked with probably close to 250 people now over
Wow.
the course of 20 years. You know, in my business in one way or another. I've told at every point when I've gone to hire people in the last, I would say it's been true the whole time, 20 years. I've said, if you tell me where you went to college or what degree you have or what grades you got, if that comes up at all in our conversation, you're completely eliminated from the process.
Oh, wow. Why is that?
It's because if you think that makes you valuable, or if you think that adds any value at all to who you are as a contributor to what we're doing here, you don't understand what we're doing here.
Right.
I want people of character. They don't
Right.
teach you character in college.
No.
I want people who have achieved something significant.
Mm-hmm.
College is not a significant achievement to me. I'm sorry. For some people, they're very proud of it. And I'm not trying to take that away. But as far as your usefulness in the business that I'm building,
right,
that piece of paper doesn't mean anything to me. If you tell me that you've launched and failed a few small businesses, and then you finally figured one out and you sold that one, but maybe not as much money as you wanted it to sell for, you know, that type of story. Okay, now you're someone I'm interested in.
right,
You're
right.
someone who's out there serving others well, trying to find a profitable way to do it, to build a business, to create opportunity. I don't care if you went to school or not. I don't care where you live on the planet, what color your skin is, how old you are. Those things are irrelevant. What school you went to certainly doesn't matter. What grades you got at that school, if you went, I could care less. And I can tell you that I'm not the only one that thinks that way.
Well, there's plenty of business owners are thinking that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Business owners, people who are creating opportunities, creating jobs, they really don't care if you have a degree. It's hard to find statistics and data on topics like that because I think it scares us.
Yeah.
But the reality is, where you went to school is mattering to fewer and fewer people. If you went is mattering to fewer and fewer people.
Right. And a lot of actually, even high-tech companies, they stop looking at the college degrees.
They could care less.
Yeah, they just look at what have you done, right?
Did you see that one college, Pingman? Maybe you saw the one that I like this model because education and schooling have become synonymous in so many people's worlds. That's two completely different topics.
Yeah, exactly.
Education is a completely separate topic from schooling. But what this one school is doing, trying to connect the two again, is saying, hey, our college is free. 100% free. We'll teach you the technical skill, the skills that are needed out in the real world. You come completely free, and we want to get paid a percentage of your salary the first 5 years you're employed.
Right.
Now that's a model I would send my kid into, right? Because you're reversing the risk.
Right. Well, I think actually Purdue is trying to do that.
I that's awesome. I love it. Come for free.
Yeah.
And then the only way they're paid.
They they are not free, but they kind of very low. I mean, give you something, and then they'll say, okay, when you graduate, when you get job, then we take some percentage back.
Yeah, prove
Yeah.
that what you're teaching me is making me more valuable in the
Uh,
marketplace.
yeah, and also that shows that the whatever the school or college is doing, that they really provide value. It's not just a degree, because they
Yeah.
bet on that, right? They're saying, okay, we train you, we believe what we teach you are valuable, so that we can take risk when you go out to work, and you can make money.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. There's actually,
But I'm still, even models like that, Pingman, I'm still not as excited because I see us, and this is me speaking as a Christian. I see our culture in decline. I went to
yeah,
Indiana State in the 90s,
right.
and we had male dorms next to female dorms. So all
Mm-hmm.
guys here, all
Mm-hmm.
ladies here. And
Yeah,
after 10 o'clock p.m., you had to
mm-hmm.
separate out, and
Right,
you're
right,
actually get yourself in significant trouble if you were in the wrong
right,
building
right,
after 10,
right,
right?
right,
And then within a couple of years after I left, they had every other floor,
right.
male, female in every building. And then
Mm-hmm.
after that, they had males and females on the same floors sharing room, two females here, two males here.
Wow.
After that, you can have female roommates if you're a male. You can have opposite sex roommates. How in the world do we expect to maintain any sense of Judeo-Christian
Right.
ethic, moral standards?
Definitely.
I don't want to send my kid into that. As
No.
solid as they might be in
Right.
what they believe, they're going to be seeing so much garbage that
True.
tears down that moral structure that we've built. And I would argue that's the structure that built civilization, the
Right.
Judeo-Christian ethic, which could be a whole nother topic for another
Right.
day. But
Right. Yeah.
regardless of your worldview, you've got to see where, as we start to destroy those institutions such as family and
Very.
marriage, the
Yeah.
sanctity of marriage and the sanctity
Exactly.
of life itself, right?
Right.
That's going to have an impact. So
Exactly.
if I'm going to send my kid into that lion's den of bad ideas and untested, unproven theories of the way the world might be someday, that's never been shown to work in all of human history, like I
Mm.
don't know that I want them to experiment on my kid. I think I'd rather
No.
keep them out of that,
Yeah.
mess.
Yeah. It definitely deteriorated pretty fast. Yeah, very quickly, and especially now. And if you listen to Jordan Peterson, I mean, he was sounding alarms. The pretty much the critical race theory, which basically is a neo-Marxism,
Yes.
is pretty much taking over the higher education. And even for people like him, who is not a believer, who believes in evolution, he's
Mhm.
a humanist, but he's very honest and uh, uh, a scholar. Even for him, and it become harder and harder for him to actually to be in that academia kind of environment. It's become so toxic now.
Yes. You've got to buy into the progressive agenda,
Mhm.
or they increasingly so they have no use for you.
Right.
And even like you said, Jordan Peterson, a guy who he doesn't know where he stands on is there a God or not. He's not sure, but he would like to explore ideas openly with honesty, using honest numbers,
Right.
honest data, looking at history through an honest lens.
Right.
That's not welcome.
No,
There's an
no, no.
agenda.
Right.
And I love that you introduced the Marxism concept. To me, all Marxism is let's set up our culture without God in the way that makes the
Exactly.
most sense as possible
Mhm.
without God. So
Right.
the government little g replaces God big G. That's all Marxism is.
Right.
That's 99% of what I feel like explains it. And I could dive deeper in, as I'm sure you could, because coming from your familiarity with China, and
Right.
they truly embraced socialism, communism, and they're still paying the price for it in many,
Right.
many ways.
What? Yeah.
Um,
Really, if you look at it, the communism itself basically is a cult. It's actually a cult from Christianity. They want to build the heaven, but without God.
yes,
Yeah.
utopia.
Yeah. But it always ends up with totalitarian. I mean, they were talking about, okay, we're going to build a society without class, without, everything's equal, everybody's happy. But in order to do that, you have to give us power, right?
Right.
But
Right.
once you give them power, they are not going to give
They
it
don't give it
back.
up. And once they have power, and there's some people who are trying to resist them in some way to get things back to a different version of what seems right. Like, hey, people are starting to starve to death over here. Can you help us out? Like let's just eliminate
Right.
the people who are making too much noise. With all that power, it becomes very easy to do. And I read books, and our oldest son is from Russia. We adopted him
Oh,
from
right.
Russia. So when I was much younger, about 24 years or so ago, we're going through this process of adopting our son, and I'm in Russia, and I'm reading books about the fall of communist Russia. And I was
Right.
shocked. And these are stories you'd be familiar with. Anyone who studied socialism leading to
Right.
communism, which it always does, is familiar with these stories. But I was reading these heartbreaking stories of they would appoint a government over every sector, a government czar over every sector
Oh,
in the
yeah.
economy. So it'd be a government of dairy, for example.
Right.
So this is the guy who determines where the farms are, how many farms we have, which cities get how much milk and butter, right? So there's a
Right.
government, a really smart guy who went to a really good school, I'm sure, and got a really good education. So we worship at the altar of education, and we appoint this man, the smartest in our culture on the topic of dairy, right? And he's living in this huge palace with servants and just this opulent lifestyle. And he determines, he and his team of thousands of people who are also paid very well, I'm sure, how much milk and dairy goes to each
Right.
city.
Right.
So that way they're paying the same price in every city for the same amount of milk and butter. And to your progressive young person who's thinking this through, like, that sounds great. Like, we're all paying the same price. No one can get ripped off. No one's getting rich with their dairy farms. We just got a handful of people making all these decisions. Well, what's wrong with that model, Pingnan? And I'm sure you know the end of this story, but as I read it, it became sad because there's some cities where there wasn't enough milk. And there's other cities where it's rotting on the shelves 50 miles away from each other.
Right.
Because the really smart people, the czars of dairy, didn't quite do the math right.
Right.
So what they did, instead of allowing the milk to move from one city to the other before it spoiled, that's actually black market activity. You hear the black market in Russia? That's black market illegal activity to move the milk from city A to city B. You'd be thrown in jail and punished.
Right. Yeah.
So what would they do instead? They just let it rot, adjust the numbers, and try to get it right next time. But of course, they never did.
No.
And it eventually leads to mass starvation.
Exactly.
Government takes over industries trying to improve them, and they can't do the job as well as the people who used to own the plant.
Right.
Like, you read when Castro took over in Cuba.
Right.
He kicked all the business owners out and said, the government's taking over. We don't want any more wealthy capitalists running business.
Right.
Government's taking over. Within a very short time, there were just no businesses anymore.
Right.
There was no anything anymore.
Right.
There were no products anymore.
There's no incentive, right? Because that's how things goes. Communism have this kind of wrong view of human nature. They think that everyone should just work for the common good, right? Sounds good, but that's not the incentive.
It's denial. It's denial of human nature.
Right, because for human nature is we're trying to make a profit, right? And that's how you do business. Nobody got into business to, just to
well, I think
we
lose our incentive to work hard, Pingnan. See if this resonates. We lose our incentive to work hard when we look around and don't see any reward for it.
Right, exactly. Because to us, that's what's supposed to, right? I mean, if we work hard, I get more, right? It's justice in a way. And but I mean, in all the socialist countries, just talk about Canada. I mean, like Canada, if you make money, and you don't have to make a lot, and pretty soon you'll see that 40% goes to the government. And so in that case, why should you work? And there are people, a lot of young people there, they just don't work.
Yeah.
Because the work, they don't get that, considering like what kind of welfare it can get versus, if you actually got a job and work hard, and government take almost half of it. And then just when you look at it, why, right? Why should I?
The wealthiest income earners in the United States already lose half, at least, if not more, of their income to taxes of one form or another, once you add up all the taxes.
Oh, yeah.
But if we talk just income taxes, I think people are sometimes shocked to hear this is an important statistic. This is in the US. This is recent data you could look up, Pingnan, and you've probably heard these numbers. I don't know, but I was actually shocked to hear this on CNN just a few days ago, which is typically not a source for any kind of reliable data from a conservative
Right.
Republican or biblical vantage point. But they even shared this data because it was with the Secretary of the Treasury. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but she was making the point, hey, we need to make sure we tax the rich. They need to give their fair share. That's a favorite line of progressives.
Right.
The rich need to pay their fair share. So the CNN reporter, like, it floored me. I had to rewind and make sure I'd heard it properly. But she threw up this graph and said, okay, the top 1% in the United States, they earn a lot. They actually earn 20% of the income pie. So we've got 1% of the people taking home 20% of the income. And everyone goes, oh, that's horrible. That's scary. That's awful. How out of balance is that? They should pay their fair share. Well, do you know what percentage of all income taxes that 1% pays?
I don't know.
What piece of the pie? Take a guess. Take a guess.
Oh, a piece of pie. I think a piece of pie is like
that they pay
70% or something like that.
It's 40. That top 1% pays 40%, almost half of the taxes collected by the United States government for income.
Okay.
That top 1% pays almost half of the taxes collected by our government. That's insane. If that's not fair share, what is? Like, and that was the question the reporter gave back. Like, what is fair share? You keep saying this word, but no one will define it. Like, if they're paying almost half the taxes in this country, 1% of the population is paying almost half the taxes in this country.
Right.
Where's the fair, so if we continue to crush the earners and the creators and the people who are growing businesses, and I'll say this about Jeff Bezos, love him or hate him, there's not $1 in his pocket that didn't get there because he gave a customer something they wanted more than that dollar bill.
All right. Yep.
He didn't rip anybody off. He didn't randomly raise taxes. He didn't go into office with a few dollars in the bank and leave 20 years later a multimillionaire and no one knows how it happened. That's politicians.
That's politicians.
That's not private businessmen doing that. The only way private businessmen get wealthy is by providing a service that's greater than the wealth they're accumulating. Politicians, not so. All you got to do is just, jot a few lines on a piece of paper, have the right people sign it. There's more money in their bank account suddenly, magically, and they have more power and control suddenly.
Exactly. Well, this is something. Yeah, this is something I think a lot of young people do not realize, that when you want the government to take care of you, first of all, you won't get the care you expected, and second of all, you really give the politicians a lot of power. And when you have power, power corrupts, right?
Yeah. Well, Robert Kiyosaki, have you ever read any Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Yeah.
One of the things he said, and I loved in his book, he put it very well. And I don't love everything they've come up with, but he's an entrepreneurial guy. I've picked up some very valuable things from their content.
Well, yeah.
One of the things he said is the difference between a government sector job and a private sector job is, with a government sector job, not only you're not creating any value, but you're rewarded for failure and incompetence.
Oh, yeah.
Because you get a bigger budget next time.
Right.
Like, I need more money. If you want me to do this right, we just failed miserably after that hurricane. That means we need a bigger budget next time. We need more people. We need more resources. Whereas in the private sector, if you fail, you get less resources.
Right.
Someone else is out there doing it better. Your competition figured out a way to make a better product for less money. So that's what you get to do. Go out of business.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. This is exactly what happened in our public education system. We will keep fail, and then we keep getting more money and keep throwing more money. And now the Indiana as a state, half our budget goes to education, and there is not much, to show for it.
I shake my head.
I know.
I think we talked about the car. Have you ever heard of that documentary? It's about 15 years old now, but it's every much relevant. It's more relevant now than it was then. It's called The Cartel. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's about the education spin. It's about the spending habits. They go in and they look, I think it was New Jersey. They just take one state, right? And they look at that one state and they look at the education budget, and they go in and they've got to really work to get the data, because it's hard to get the data. So they actually finally get the data and they put it on a pie chart and they show you where the money's being spent. So oftentimes guys like us, Pingman, will start talking about education and people think, oh, you're anti-education. You think the teachers should be poor. You think we should have horrible classrooms. No, that's not what we're saying. I'm saying, look at the way the money's being spent. Right. We spend more money per student in the United States than any other country
in the
world by far. But you look at where the money's being spent, it's not making it to the classroom. It's not
No,
going into teachers' paychecks.
no,
It's going into administration.
right.
So they showed these parking lots with these administration buildings with all these nice cars. These people never set foot in a school building. They go to their
Hmm.
administration jobs
Right.
and they sit in these big buildings, and they had like something like one administrator for every 18 students or something.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not saying one teacher for every 18 students. I'm saying one
No.
administrator,
Wow. Wow.
office job. Like, what do you
Yeah.
do all day? You go sit at your desk and do what exactly?
Wow.
An
What
army of administrators that
I
almost
know.
outnumbered the number of teachers.
What this actually I know. The Indianapolis public school system, they actually got more non-teaching staff than teachers.
That's ridiculous.
I know. I
That's
know.
insane.
Uh-huh. It's just like
Imagine what we could do with that money
right.
to actually educate
Exactly.
children. Or me
Yeah.
as a homeschool parent, I know I still paid my property taxes. I still paid for this beautiful school that's sitting across the street over here. God bless them.
Right.
There's some good people in there, good teachers, good hearts, and people with some really crazy agendas too. It's all kind of mixed in together. But we homeschooled our five, and they're doing really great so far. And
Right.
we didn't get any break. You know,
No.
we still sent our money over there. Shouldn't we have gotten something for that? We did your job for you.
Right.
How about some help here?
Right.
Nothing.
No.
We had to come up with extra money on top of paying for everyone else's kids to go to school
Exactly.
to pay for our own resources.
Exactly.
That's out of balance. How about we put the parents back in control?
Yep. 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 And we're talking about uh homeschooling. So when did you start it?
We did homeschool we've been doing it for 22, 23 years now.
Oh,
We got
wow.
5 kids. My oldest is 24. My youngest is 14.
Wow. So what made you decided to homeschool? Because that was, always kind of a long time ago.
It was, we just liked the idea of being around our kids.
Oh,
I was driving past, it's been a few years back over here, and we live right across the street over here from Center Grove High School here in Greenwood. So
okay.
I was driving, and school was getting ready to start up, and they had their billboard out front, it said, "Parents rejoice, school is about to start again," in jest and good humor. I see the humor they're going for there, but I'm thinking, I don't want to be away from my wife and kids more. Our culture already does that plenty.
Right.
I'm not going to rejoice that I get to see them 8 hours less a day. They're
Right.
only going to be in my home for 17, 18, 19 years. And then they're gone the rest of their life living somewhere else. I want to be around my kids.
Mm.
And we said, okay, is it responsible for us to keep them here? Is it
Mhm.
possible for us to educate them as well as what
The
they're going to
school-
get in a
right.
building? We found out very quickly with minimal research, we can actually give them a huge advantage. A couple hours of individual attention, the 5 of them per day from their mom.
Yep.
She's smart. She's not Einstein. Neither am I. Neither are you. But we're smart enough to teach them to read, to
Oh,
do
yeah,
some
yeah.
basic math,
Right.
teach them to get into some good books, pursue
Right.
some habits and hobbies. And they're doing phenomenal. And you just don't have to look far to see these
Right.
kids.
Right. I mean,
who
there
are
is a
thriving.
there's definitely tons of data out there to show that kids educated at home outperform kids in
Yeah.
going through public and private schools, because like you said, they get attention from their parents, and also they can build good habits, and especially when you are doing a business, they can get involved pretty early, right?
Yes, which we've done. Yeah.
Right.
They've
And-
grown up. They've grown up with that entrepreneurial understanding and that approach, and we can build their values in.
Right. And also just kind of want back to entrepreneurship, because I think the mindset is what most important. Like you say, you could be working with someone, just regular jobs, but you have to think in terms as entrepreneur, right? You have to think, okay, did I provide a good service that I got this back, or can I get more for the service I provide? You always has to think about that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And-
And I think it goes back to something we talked about earlier, Ping, and when you bring that up is I think kids instinctually are drawn and attracted to that.
Mhm.
Like the whole lemonade stand idea,
Right.
or doing some small chores and like, hey mom, how can I earn some more money? I
Right.
want to start. And you have that opportunity to start talking to them about, if you provide value to others, you can have as much of whatever you want. I remember telling our kids, we'd go to a fast food restaurant, or we'd drive past a nice house, or we go to the grocery store, and there's just so many chances to teach how the world works, how money works.
Right.
So I'd ask them questions like, we drive past a nice house, and I'd say, how do you think that person got that house?
Mm.
The person that lives there. Let's make up a story about what we think happened in this
Okay.
person's
Okay.
life. Right. So you have those opportunities to educate your kid that the people who are getting nice things, who are hiring people, creating opportunity, they're the people who are working hard, serving others well. Our culture has been on the attack probably since the 60s or so against business.
Oh yeah.
In many, many ways. Like, how many movies can you think of where the good guy is a business owner?
No.
I mean, it's always the bad guy.
Right.
You know, he's sitting at the top of his tower, and he's polluting rivers and killing
Right,
single
right,
moms and
right.
creating products that he knows are poisonous, and
Yeah.
or he's killing James Bond, and it's always the business. But if you look at the real world, the people who are owning businesses, creating opportunities, they're really good people. I've known a
Right.
lot of people of means and resources. It's
Right.
hard to be a really bad person and achieve well in business. It's virtually
Exactly.
impossible.
Yeah, because you're going to you provide. I mean, especially as a small business person, you have to be good, right?
Yeah.
Be nice to people. I mean, you are not like a politician. You,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
mean,
I'll tell you a story. Do you know who Jack Welch is, Pingman, by any chance?
Yes. Yeah.
Jack Welch, GE,
Yeah.
right?
The GE guy. Yeah.
Yes. Do you know? You may or may not have heard the story. Why they brought him to GE?
I read his. I forgot. I definitely
biology?
read it. Yeah.
A biography. So
His book.
he basically, GE was struggling. They were going downhill
Mhm.
fast. So they wanted to bring in a CEO to turn the thing around. And they brought in Jack Welch. And this is the very short version of the story. But
Right.
some people look at, like, because you mentioned small business, I would say it goes across the board, all businesses. They brought in a CEO. And basically, what do you do as a CEO? You sit behind a desk, and you've got a phone, and you've got a secretary. Like, you're not doing any real work, are you?
Right.
No.
Right.
So our culture is like, oh, those guys, they're
Right.
overpaid,
Right.
too much money.
No.
But he turned the ship around.
Right.
And it's important to understand, we look at like a football player or a basketball player, and we see them do things that we can't do. And we think, okay, they should be making a lot of money because they're doing things that I simply can't do.
Right.
But what is it that a CEO does that we simply can't do? Do you happen to know what it is? I'm pretty sure I can hit the nail on the head, but what would you say?
Go ahead. What to me like is more kind of a business sense, and to see where the market goes, and
Sure.
how do you
Some instincts, maybe.
Yeah.
But a lot of the best CEOs don't rely on instincts at all. They rely on facts and data that we could easily analyze between the two of us. Right. It's something beyond that. It's something bigger than that. I think you're really going to like. And this is my theory, but I've heard it taught other places too. And I think I tend to agree with.
Right.
It's their network of connections.
Oh, gotcha. Yep. I agree with you.
So one of the things we've built into our kids is, and we call it the 3 a.m. concept. And I teach it in my business community as well. And I would encourage you, Pingman, I know you've got aspirations to be on the school board, and you've got my vote for sure. And anyone listening to this, vote for Pingman. Because I know your heart. You love these kids. You love these families. You want the best for this community. Right. And you see us under attack, as do I. But one of the things we drive into them is this concept of the 3 a.m. list. And that's a list of names of people. You can actually write them down if you want.
Right.
Who you could call at 3 a.m, and you could text them. And not only if they saw the phone ring or they saw your text, they would instantly, what do you need? I'm there, anything. You want to make that list as big as possible.
Right.
Not through fake friendships or shallow relationships, but through genuinely serving and caring and loving others, which is, that's all a business is.
Right.
So you can really generate a whole lot of support in your local community, or even globally. Our community, the internet has made it possible. There's people all over the world now that I could reach out to because we've served them well at some point.
Right.
And say, hey, could use a little favor, could use a little help. That makes you more valuable to step into a leadership role. You've got influence. People trust you. They know your track record. You've done things right for a long enough time. So a guy like Jack Welch can pick up the phone to the top lawyer in the world to handle contract negotiations with some oil manufacturer or something, right? Like, he knows who to call, and that guy trusts him. So they've already got that relationship from the past dealings.
Yeah.
That's what makes a Jack Welch so valuable, where
Mm,
that's why they would hire him and not me. Right.
right,
Because
right.
Jack Welch and I could, I could probably beat him in a math test possibly, or I could beat him with some kind of personality profile
Right,
score.
right, right, right.
That's not what it is that makes them
What?
valuable.
Yeah. So this is what you bring into business, right? That's the capital you bring to the business,
Relationships
right? Which
are the
is
capital.
right,
Yes.
exactly, because
We teach that from a
right,
biblical vantage point, which is
right.
another soapbox issue for me, Pingman. But
Mm,
the reason business exists to begin with is to reinforce relationships. A transaction in Hebrew, which the foundation of everything we do financially in this country comes from a Hebrew structure.
mm,
I could
right,
spend time and make that case. It's
right.
inarguable. The
Yeah.
word for coin, the word for currency, blood we keep in a bank, coins we keep in a bank, blood
Mm,
bank, in
mm,
Hebrew, the same word, blood and
mm.
coins, money, have the same overlapping meaning.
Oh
They have to
wow.
circulate. There's power in the
Right, right, right.
circulation.
Yeah,
Money
yeah.
circulates, blood circulates.
Right.
It's a biblical foundation. So when you start looking at the purpose of business and why God gave us business,
Mm.
it was to enhance relationships, to make
Oh,
us interdependent on one another.
I
He
like
doesn't
that.
want us isolated, living on little plots of land, never talking to each other.
Right,
He wants us specializing and interdependent on each other.
right,
Just like as a parent, we would want our kids to rely on each other, lean on
right,
each other,
right.
have different gifts and
Yeah,
talents, and kind of be useful in each other's
right,
lives.
right. And that's how
God
you
smiles when he sees it.
right, and that's how you build civilization, right? Civilization, by definition, is to group people together and work together, right?
Relying on each other.
Yeah, to the interdependency of each other. Yeah,
Exactly. And that's all business is. It's a reward-based system
yeah.
for depending on each other.
Yeah, I really like what you said there, which kind of really helped me because I never saw it that way. Is that as a business, you actually provide something more valuable than the money you are getting. The price you
Otherwise, why
put
would
on.
somebody pay you the money?
Exactly, which makes perfect sense. Just like I never thought in that way,
Yeah.
because you always, I mean, depends on as now I'm kind on both sides, right? I am consuming. I was buying for someone, and I provide service, so someone pay me. I'm on both sides now, so I can appreciate that. But for people, most time they just on the other end, like they pay for service. It's hard for them to think that way, right?
Yeah.
It,
Well,
it,
maybe they have a job, Pingman. I would challenge them to think about this way. Maybe you have a job and you get paid $1,000 a week.
mm-hmm.
How long are you going to stay? How long is your employer going to keep you?
Right, right.
If you're providing $200 of value a week
No.
and he's paying you $1,000, how long is he going to keep that product on his team? Not very long. But what if you're providing $5,000
Right.
of value a week?
What?
It's easy for
Yeah.
him to pay you. It's the same thing in the marketplace. I'm not going to go spend $1,000 on something that's only worth $100 to me.
Right. But this is something, I mean, actually, I like you. I'm glad you bring it up. But from the Marxism point of view, that was looked at as a exploitation of the workers. Exploitation, right?
Yes.
Instead of that,
Yes.
but
Marxism sees all employment contracts as
right,
exploitation.
right, yeah, yeah. But that's how things work, right? Otherwise, why they give you a job?
Yes. Unless we want to rely on a centralized government
Right.
who controls everything and tells us what we can do when we can do it. It's like a lion living in a cage. And some people think that sounds really nice. I get fed the same amount as all the other lions. I go to bed at the same time. If I get sick, I get the same medicine. That sounds really nice. But the thing is, every time it's been tried in human history, it ends up in mass death, such as the 100 million people that
Right.
died in
And
the past century from
right, right.
communism.
And
It
also
just
that
it doesn't work.
and also that even if it works, that's slavery, right?
For that short window of time where everybody thinks it's kind of working. Like there was mass celebration in Cuba when
Right.
Castro took over. It was
Yeah.
beautiful for a
Right.
few months.
Just for a few months.
Just like read what happened in Venezuela. They went from one of the
Right.
most profitable
Wow.
Central American
It's just
nations in the
crazy.
world, in the region, and just it didn't take long, about 10 years. They
Yeah.
went from being one of Bernie Sanders' favorite countries on the
Right.
planet to one he never talks about in
No,
about a
no,
decade.
no. What
Because
this is something I think the young people needs to realize that socialism is slavery. When you have
yes,
someone take care of everything you need, that's the relationship between a slave and slave owner, right? mean, not all slave owners are bad. Some are,
No.
good slave owners, but nevertheless, that's slavery. They take care of you, right? That's the reason you become slaves, because someone said they will take care of you, right?
Well, that was the agreement that slave owners had. By the
Right.
way, several black slave owners in the United States owned white slaves. That's
Yeah.
part of our history that doesn't get taught very often, but
Right.
it's a fact. It wasn't about color, it was about the rich
No,
owning the
no,
poor.
no, it's not,
But the
never.
agreement that they had was, if you work hard, I'm going to give you a safe place to sleep at night. You can have a wife and have children.
Right.
If you get sick, we got medicine for you.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
going to give you food. It's not going to be the same great food that we're eating up in the castle, just
Of course not. Right.
but it's gonna sustain you. You're going to be safe.
Yeah, it'd be safe.
And that,
Exactly.
as people who study history know, if you read history books written before, say, 1960,
Mm.
that's all human history was. Pingman was the wealthy owning the poor.
Right.
The strong guy beating up the weak guy and taking his stuff.
Right.
That's human history. So that's
Right.
why I appreciate a guy like Jordan Peterson, who you referenced, where he says, for the first time, we got to put the time we live into perspective. For the first time in human history, it's possible for the skinny little dude with not much to offer except his intelligence can rise.
Right.
It's not because of some power structure.
No.
It's because he's creating value for enough people, and no one can
Exactly.
take it away from him because of the system of laws that we've built.
Right.
You see people rising based on their ability to serve,
Exactly.
not on their ability to beat up others and force them into submission.
Right. Right. Yeah, he actually made a great point. Another point I really appreciate that is that he's saying that, well, I'm kind of paraphrasing that, if when you have a free market, I mean, the capitalist kind of society, I mean, that's the only time in history that you don't have to, kill others to get the money. You just
That's
provide
right.
the service. We just each provide service. We get paid. Then we are all happy, right? We don't have to kill each other just to try and do, to get some wealth.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Have you read the book or heard of the book, The 5,000-Year Leap?
No.
Fascinating premise. I've never read it myself, but just the
Okay.
premise alone of the book, I find incredible. The title is perfect.
Okay.
Because if you look at all of human recorded history and you map out medicine, science, technology, child mortality, wealth creation, and you look at it on a linear line, going back as far as we can, it's this very slow rising linear line with painfully few advances in any of those areas for several thousand years.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, about the time of the Magna Carta,
Mhm.
about the time of the formation of the United States, which followed,
Right. Yep.
we see this,
Yep.
this
It is
5,000
true.
year leap forward in medicine, science, technology,
Yeah.
conveniences. And we take these things for granted. But when you put it in perspective, the concept of individual sovereignty and individual responsibilities
Very.
and the common law, the
Mhm.
United States is the first country ever founded. And this is profound,
Mhm.
where law rules.
Right.
The president sits under the law.
Right.
The people who write the laws sit under the established law that they can't change.
Right.
The
Right.
law rules. There's no other culture still to this day that the law rules the land in that
Mhm.
way. It can't be
Mhm.
changed. It's unchangeable foundation. Now you can add amendments.
Right.
You can't change the foundational documents. They're
Right.
unchangeable.
Right.
You
Right.
basically have destroyed the United States and what it is at the point that you try to dismantle the
Right.
Constitution.
Yeah.
Right? So free speech, the right to bear arms, those aren't negotiable things
No.
in our structure.
No. Yeah.
And we're all
Yeah.
under that. We all sit under that.
Right. And then that's where we see, I mean, especially as an immigrant, I mean, I can compare with different countries. Now, I mean, America is the freest place, I mean, and freest country in the world, because here, if you provide a service, you get rewarded. I mean, you don't have to have, know someone in the government or know some like people like mafia or something. I mean, like you said, individually we can provide service, and when we provide good service, we get rewarded, and that's how we all get rich. I mean, it's not a zero-sum game, right?
No.
Like at the country, we actually grow the property, everybody gets richer.
Yeah. Well,
And
under Marxism belief system, under communism, socialism, it is a zero-sum game. There's
Right.
only so many resources, and
Right.
someone really smart should decide, we're treated like cows. Every cow gets a quarter bale of hay every day. No one should have 3 bales of hay. If you see
No.
a cow in the field and he's got all the hay, keeping
Right.
it to himself, what do? You go over and you smack that cow and you split up the hay,
Right.
and you give it to all
Exactly.
the other cows.
Yeah.
And so if you think about it, it's kind of consistent with the worldview of creation versus evolution, Pingman, right? So if we're just another animal, we're just a slightly skinnier version of a cow, slightly slower than a cheetah, slightly more intelligent than a chimpanzee, not as good as swimmers as a dolphin. We're just another animal, right?
Right.
We need to be smacked around when we accumulate more than the other animals. And we need to have it divided up. If evolution is your belief system and we're just another animal, and there's animals more advanced than us that are coming eventually, then it almost starts to make sense, that worldview of, hey, treat us all like animals, give us all the same stuff. But if you look at us as individuals, touched and gifted with distinct abilities, and we have a choice. We're the only part of creation. As a Christian, I love this, what God did. He created all of these amazing things, and he created one thing that has the ability to choose to wake up in the one day and go, you know what? I don't like where I'm at right now. I'm going to go somewhere better and different and make something significant. Or you can say, you know what? I'm going to sit around and eat ice cream until I weigh 400 pounds. You have that choice.
Exactly.
So the question becomes, should we reward those who make the hard choices and build discipline and figure out a way to build systems to serve, create technologies, medicine, science that serves all of us well? Should we reward that or not?
Right.
Because if we don't, we're left with the Marxist model of everybody gets their bale of hay.
All right.
If you try to get more bales of hay than you're deserving, we're going to take away those bales of hay.
Right. Exactly. You're not allowed to get more than anybody else.
Right.
Yeah. So, wow. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I hope we can talk more, because
I would love to.
Just now, I learned a lot from you, and there is still a lot of things I haven't got time to ask you yet, because
it's not that I know all these things. I would encourage people, and you too, Pingman, to study.
Right.
One of my favorite authors, Daniel Lapin, Lapin.
Yeah, I got his 2 books from him. Yeah.
Business Secrets from the Bible.
You actually recommend that to me.
Yes, phenomenal book that really gets your head straight. And it just, to kind of sum up everything, I think if I had 30 seconds to sum up the topics that we covered today and to really help people decide which side of the line they're on, I think our culture is divided, and we always talk about, hey, there's people over here and people there. There's the rich and the poor. There's the black, there's the white, there's the male and the female, Democrat, Republican. No, I think here's the dividing line. But I think and wrestle with this and see if you agree and give it some thought. But I think the true dividing line in our culture right now is people who see the Bible as relevant, as useful, as inarguable from my vantage point, the foundation of civilization. That 5,000-year leap. Without the Bible, there's no Magna Carta. Without the Bible, there's no 1776. There's no foundation. The United States is built on nothingness. We almost spoke Hebrew as a nation because of our love for the foundation of that book. That came close to being the formal language of the United States was almost Hebrew.
Really? Wow.
Because of the love of that book.
Okay.
It's so ingrained. The 3 branches of government, that's straight out of Leviticus, right? Like everything about we're built on the Bible. So there's people who see the value in that. And then there's other people who see that as irrelevant, dangerous, an old book full of stupid stories written by white guys and doesn't make any sense, and it's full of contradictions, and we need to get rid of it as fast as we can because it's keeping us from progress.
Right.
That's the line in the sand.
I got you.
Marxism on one side.
Right.
No God, government is God. Put good people in charge of us and we're going to be okay. Although it's never worked in world history, let's give it a shot. That's one side. And then the other side is, hey, the Judeo-Christian ethic that built this incredible civilization, created all this opportunity, gave us the internet where we can even debate these things.
Right.
That's a valuable structure. That's a valuable tool. We need to use that as the foundation.
Right. And that's one of the reasons, like my actually 2016, when I was ran for the school board at the time, my slogan is faith, math, mental health. And now this time is faith, academics, and no politics. But I think we need to have that in our public system, because it used to be. It was taken out, but it was used to be, because the kids need to learn about the Judeo-Christian worldview.
Yeah.
mean,
Or just accurate American history.
right. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't,
we replaced American history with social studies in the
right.
60s, 70s,
Mm,
and we're talking social studies now instead of
right.
the foundation of
Exactly.
this incredible nation. This is a little 250-year window of time in human history that's remarkable.
Right.
Like if we had the ability to zoom out and see all of human history, this little 250-year America on the planet piece of history is off the charts.
Right.
Wealth, medicine, technology, the entire planet.
Right.
We're on the cusp of eliminating diseases that were around forever, and we have eliminated many of them. And there's fewer people on the planet now per capita starving than ever. Why?
Right.
Capitalism, free markets have done that, not communism and socialism.
No,
Those have
no.
never accomplished anything to
Right.
raise the standard of living where they're
Yeah.
trying.
And also, if you look at different forms of capitalism, I think what we got right in this country is because we have the Judeo-Christian ethics as a foundation. Otherwise, capitalism can become very, very dangerous.
Oh, absolutely. Our founding fathers understood that, and they
Right.
put safeguards in place. And they said things like, we've created a structure that's very useful for an ethical people.
Right. Exactly.
But for an immoral people, it
No,
falls apart very
it
quickly.
definitely. That's why.
As soon as you figure out you can vote yourself more money,
Right. Right.
like, ooh, I'm going to vote for that guy. He promised me more goodies than that guy. If we start voting that way, it self-destructs.
Yeah, and that's also why it never get repeated. I mean, many countries trying to copy American system, but they don't have the foundation. They don't have the, they don't have the people who believe in the Bible and live according to the Bible. They don't have that. Just like back then.
And they don't have to even be Christians for it to work.
Right.
I think that's important to point out. I mean,
Yeah.
look at Japan post World War II. They didn't become a Christian nation,
Right.
but they adopted.
Yeah, exactly. The value system.
The values, exactly. You study guys like Deming and Duran. Do you know who those guys are? Deming,
No.
Edward Deming, Duran. Edward Deming was an American who his message wasn't received in the 70s, which is when this nation really kind of started coming apart. There's a lot of dots that connect in the
60s and 70s.
70s, right?
Yeah.
So he was going around to Ford, to Dodge, to the different automakers at the time and saying, hey, there's a better way. You can make a better product. I think, we can improve our processes by giving more power to the workers and letting them influence the process.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
Right. Statistical
Yeah.
analysis.
Right.
I picked up something.
Right.
Well, he was rejected. There's statues of this guy in Japan.
Right. Yeah.
And it was he didn't take a Bible with him, but he went in with the Christian ethic.
Right.
That we need to respect the lowest level workers because they see the mistakes we're making. We need to get ideas from the people who are actually twisting the screws, constantly improving process. That's where we get like the Six Sigma programs and the constantly improving processes from those guys.
Yeah.
That's a biblical ethic thing.
Right.
It's not, there's one really smart guy who's telling all the rest of us what to do.
No, it never works.
That system never works.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the same thing. Like, I think Jordan Peterson actually talked about the Australian economic system. So the thing is like, versus like the central planning versus just free market is because no matter how smart you are, you just cannot process that. There's an impossible. But
there's too many data points to manage.
Right. But you let everyone who in the free market to have this, competition and to have money as the currency to signal what's going on, then things will work out.
Let the people pick the winners and losers with their dollar bills. We call those certificates of gratitude.
Yeah.
Do I want to give my certificate of gratitude to McDonald's or to Chick-fil-A? I get to decide. The government doesn't tell me which one I have to go to.
No, exactly. Well, so I think there's too many things. I mean, for me to process. But
always. I think both of us could do this for hours too.
Yeah. So I definitely want to get back to you again because I think we can actually. I like to talk with you about money because many people do not have the right understanding of money, and also I meant to ask you but don't have time. Is like your job because you help so many young people. So I want to get that too.
Yeah,
so definitely we're going to have a part 2 on this.
Oh, absolutely. Or I could give you a brief answer to any of those things now, or we can just do it again later. I don't know what your timeline is, but
Yeah, we don't have really a fixed timeline, but if you can give me like a overview of that,
a
that's
brief
great.
overview for
Yeah,
those two
yeah. Then
topics.
we can talk about more next
Okay.
time. Yeah.
Well, let's hit what money is. I'm
Hmm.
far more interesting than talking about me. Let's talk about what money
Right.
is. And from a Judeo-Christian vantage point, money is spiritual,
Hmm.
which would take me about an hour to
Right.
explain, but it's spiritual. Money is based on faith.
Right.
And the best way for me to say that is to illustrate that maybe is uh, if we found out right now, and this is actually a Daniel Lappin illustration that makes the point really well. If we found out right now, like we had some hotline to Washington, they called us and said, "Hey, sorry to let you know, but the planet is going to be destroyed in the next hour or so by a meteor that's coming."
Hmm.
What is your net worth at that point from a monetary vantage point? Like, and everybody on the planet kind of finds out the same. What is your net worth? What's the money worth that you have? It's
Nothing.
worth,
Nothing.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Mm.
who cares who has what at that point? It's
Hmm.
game over time, right?
Right.
Money is a spiritual concept, and it allows us to figure out who truly values what.
Right.
So the person who sees the most value in an item, assuming they're serving others well,
Hmm.
can acquire that item. And we can kind of figure out how valuable different things are in our culture. Money serves the purpose of us being able to offer gratitude to each other. It's one thing for me to say thank you if you come paint my house,
Hmm.
but you can't take that thank you to the steakhouse and buy your
Right. Right.
family
Right.
a meal.
Yeah.
So rather than me just saying thank you, I give you something that allows you to receive value into your life. So we
Right.
call money, all money is it's certificates of gratitude,
Right. And also you got
certificates of performance.
right, and you get something in return. It's not like you're losing the money. You get
Yeah.
something in return, right? That's how we
Yes.
exchange. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always and both parties are better off, and that's the beauty of a free market system. And in Hebrew, the word for grace, unmerited favor, we call it as Christians,
Right.
where I bring very little to God, and He blesses it, and He's happy because He's blessed His child, and I'm happy, and I
Mm.
have way more than I had before.
Right.
Grace and marketplace are overlapping words with overlapping meaning.
Oh
Because
wow.
if you think of a marketplace, I'm there with my fish, my catch of the day, and I'm not going to eat 50 fish. My family
Right.
needs maybe one or two the next week.
Right.
But people come and they bring their money. I'm very happy to change a fish for that money.
Right.
They walk away happier.
Right.
I'm happier. So we come in with little, we leave with more.
Mm.
Just that reflects God's nature. You bring a little,
Mm.
you leave with more.
Mm.
And and that's how God established it, to reward our
Oh
interdependence
wow.
on each other too. So money is just a monitoring system that allows us to
Right.
be dependent and build relationships with each other in a trustworthy way. The way you corrupt the system
Mm.
is to have people take money by force without adding value.
Right. Or
That's
the
called theft,
yeah,
or
print money.
politicians.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which we need some taxes. Won't get into all that. But, there's
Right.
some services that only, and I love the way the United States is set up. There's a handful of things only our government can do, and that's all they should be doing. Protecting our
Right. Right. Right.
borders is one, which
Yeah.
they don't do.
Right.
Our military. There's just a handful of things that only they can do,
Right.
but the rest of it should be left to us for private.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's how that was the foundation or the principle we are built on. Just sort of over
It was.
years, it became more and more into a big government.
Yes, it's getting
No.
bigger and scarier and
Right.
hairier and
Right.
more out of control all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
And they can just spend money, without consequence, because
Printing and spending.
not because that's not their money, right? It's
Yeah.
ours.
I think that one of the first times we met, I don't know where my $10 trillion bill is. I usually keep it.
Yeah,
near my
I
desk
saw.
somewhere.
Yeah.
The Zimbabwe 10
Right.
trillion or 20
Right.
trillion dollar bill.
I still have the picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have the
That's
picture, I
real
don't have the
currency.
right.
And it's worthless.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual agreement. Paper. It's just a piece of paper with some ink on it. And in many cases, it's not even that.
Yeah, they actually spend they spend more to print that money
than what the value of it. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So it's a contract that allows us to trade with each other, but it's a spiritual concept. It requires faith for it to operate
right
correctly.
Exactly. Without faith, then the whole thing just
Animals
down.
don't exchange currency. You won't see monkeys giving another
No.
monkey $50 for 6 coconuts. It's a
Right.
uniquely human thing. It's a faith-based thing.
Right.
Only we as humans have that faith required.
Yeah,
for
and
economic
also
activity.
if you look at the history of civilization, the the more developed civilization is because they have the monetary system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Without that, you won't be able to build a advanced civilization.
Here, you'll enjoy this, Pingman. Have you seen, you need to, if you haven't, and the listeners and viewers too, you need to go, next time you're in Washington, D.C., the Museum of the Bible. Have you heard about it?
Yeah.
You know of it?
Yeah, I know. I've been there.
Did you go through the room towards the end of the tour where they have all the books on the shelves that represent the different cultures?
No.
Okay. There's a room and it's got 2,500 maybe books. They're all the same size. Some of them are yellow.
Okay.
Just completely yellow. And then others are different colored, representing different cultures. The colored ones that aren't yellow represent cultures where the word of God has been translated into that language.
Oh, okay.
The yellow are the cultures that most of them I've never heard of,
okay,
where the Bible hasn't been translated into their language.
Right.
And the point they're making is we need to translate the Bible into more languages. And I love that idea. Absolutely.
Okay.
What struck me instantly was the civilized, Western civilized nation, the places where you can actually sleep at night without fear of someone with a club hitting you in the head and taking everything you own.
Right.
There's some semblance of law order. If your baby gets sick, there's a hospital.
Yeah.
Right. There's roads, there's cars, there's technology, medicine, science. It was the ones that had the Bible integrated into their culture. And to the degree, and this is my theory, and I'm pretty sure if you just start thinking through it, to the degree that the Bible is integrated into that culture is the degree that they're wealthy.
Right.
Because God created wealth.
Right.
And I'll leave, this is a can of worms to leave things on maybe, but and I think maybe I've shared this with you before, but in Hebrew, the language that God used to carve the 10 Commandments on the 2 tablets on Mount Sinai, Hebrew, right? God's language.
Right.
The opposite word for wealth isn't poverty. Because cultures are wealthy when they operate within God's system.
Right.
If they're not operating within God's system, there are evil forces that are controlling that culture. So the opposite of wealth in Hebrew is the word evil.
Oh, wow.
Not the word poverty.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
It's very interesting. Definitely. Well, we're going to talk more on this. So yeah, I mean, I always enjoy like talking with you. It's always
truly
a good
pleasure
time.
as well.
Yeah.
And again, everyone get out and vote for Pingman and whatever else you do. You're a man of honor. You're a man who understands the threat against our culture. It's like you're wearing the glasses that allow you to see some of the scary things on the horizon. Some people just don't see them.
Right. And also because I lived through it, right?
Exactly.
And so I know how I mean, even you talk about all the communist countries, talk about like Russia and China, the true communists, they will get eliminated pretty soon after they take over power. You know, just like Stalin kind of eliminate all those communists. Mao did the same thing. I mean, that's something I think a lot of young people or communists in these countries, they do not realize that. Because if you're trying to have power and if you use power to achieve something to your end, it always turns into totalitarianism. There's no exception.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
you know, you look at modern human history, I think the only person that had the opportunity to take more power and turned it down would be George Washington.
Exactly.
The first president of the United States. They wanted to make him a king. He could have become a tyrant.
He could become a king.
He could have become a king and a tyrant and eliminated his enemies by decree.
Yeah, but because
he's a piece of paper.
Right. But because his fear of God, that kept him.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the foundation that's worth preserving. Unless, of course, you see us all as just descendants of a pile of goo that turned into fish, that turned into monkeys, and we all need our bale of hay every day to survive. And someone really smart should be in charge of that. You know, if that's your worldview, then everything we said today, Pigman, is nonsense. Right. But I would encourage people who think that way.
Right.
To go somewhere where that's how they do things.
Exactly.
And not stay here.
They do not realize without God, all you have is evil. People pay the price for that.
Hopeless. Yeah, that's a good note to end on, perhaps too.
Right.
You know, I'm a believer first. I could care less about your worldview. I have best friends who are atheists and all over the political spectrum.
Right.
To me, it's about Christ.
Right.
Christ first and him crucified.
Right.
That's the thing I'm most passionate about. These are interesting subjects.
Right.
If
Exactly.
you don't have that walk with the Lord, if you
Right.
don't know who God is, you don't have a daily walk with him,
Right.
you are missing out on what life has to
Exactly.
offer.
Yeah. And also, like, at the end of the day, right, we have to give our account to Christ, to explain to him what have we done with what
Yes.
he gave to us. That's always kept me kind of, in a way. I think the Bible put it the right word: fear of God. I mean, fear
Yeah.
is not the negative sense. Is
No, it's an awe. It's a sense of awe and admiration
Yeah, it's just
in
something
Hebrew.
who is truly love you, but you didn't do as well as you're supposed to, right?
You know, you've heard this. You've heard the scripture. Well done, good and faithful
Right.
servant. Enter into. Do you know where
Exactly.
that appears? Do you happen to remember where that appears?
Mm.
I like quizzing you, Pingman.
I know. I'm trying to think of where is that.
Where it appears twice in
Oh,
the same story.
is that in the Revelation?
No,
No.
and I would have thought so too until I made a note of it. You know,
Okay.
the only time you hear that is in the story of the parable of the talents.
Oh, right. Exactly. Now I
There you
remember.
go. Right, the
Now I
parable of the
remember.
talents,
Yeah.
which is the most brilliant illustration.
Yeah. You come to eat with me. Come to the banquet.
Well, exactly, but it's well done, good and faithful servant. But
Right.
he's rewarding those who, because everything we have was from God.
Right.
So if we're to see things through a stewardship lens, it's not mine.
Right.
I'm sitting on a chair that belongs to someone else, using a microphone that belongs to someone else,
Right.
looking at a computer that belongs, and none of this is mine. It's all God's.
Exactly.
What does it mean to be a steward of these things? It means to expand it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Being a steward is expanding the territory that belongs to another, so that when they ask for it back, you can return it, improve.
Right. You have to give.
That's the story of the parable of the talents.
Exactly.
And that's the only place where we hear, well done, good and
Right.
faithful servant.
Right.
So every time a Christian says, I want to hear those words, well done, good and faithful servant, like, well, are you being a good steward? Because that's how you hear it.
Oh,
You
yeah.
take the little that he's gave you or the much that he's given you, and you
Right.
expand it for the kingdom.
Right. And we have to give account. That's the thing. End of the day, we
Yes,
have
we
to
do.
give account. And also, that's how, like, as Christians, how we look at our kids. They are not our either.
No, they're
Right.
on loan.
Right. That's God entrust to us. So we have to give account to God about how did we do, right? What have we done?
Yes. And
Mhm.
we're responsible for their education,
Exactly. Not the
not
government.
some people that we probably never met across the street in a brick building. They're not responsible for their education. You are, as the parent. Not saying you have to do it all. You can recruit some help if you need it, but you're responsible for their
Yeah.
education.
But this is something like, oh, sorry, let me take kind of long, but that's something I think can tie back to be entrepreneur, because you have to think as a business owner, right? Because as a business owner, you don't have to do everything, but
That's
you
right.
are responsible for everything.
Yeah.
You can hire a tutor, you could, whatever, but at the end of the day, you are responsible, which
You
is
have to
different.
put people in place that you
Right.
trust to,
Which-
specialization.
Right.
Jack Welch didn't go into GE and do all the jobs
Right.
himself to turn things
Right.
around.
But
He brought in the key people that he
right.
needed.
But he's responsible for everything, right? Ultimately. And that's something I think most of us don't have that, because most of us work as an employee. So as employees, we are not responsible for the whole thing. We just make sure what we do, right? We mean if the things burn down or whatever, it really have nothing to do with us.
Yeah,
But
I'll go get another job.
as a
Yeah.
business owner, then it's different. So I think that's
Mhm.
also a thing in terms how we look at our children, because we can hire someone or we can send public school, but we still have to be responsible for that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
Well,
that's why I say all parents are homeschool parents. Whether they're
Right.
good at it or not is a different debate.
I
We're all
love that.
homeschool parents. The
Right.
home is where most of the education is going to happen.
That's
They may be in
true.
a school building for part of the day,
Right.
but the home is the foundation.
Exactly. The
And that's
home,
what-
the family,
Yes.
right? That's how you build up. You build up for your family, right? you're talking about the relationship. That's trying to build, right? You build a relationship with the kids. Your kids have relation with each other, then their kids have relation with each other. Then can have a nice family.
Yes.
And then that's how make the whole society kind of prosperous, right? You
Yeah.
got to have a good family. Otherwise, the society just like what we see now, just full of crimes and all
Here's
that.
another visual for you. I love creating visuals. Okay,
Yeah.
so you look at the Judeo-Christian ethic,
Mhm.
the one that we subscribe to. Regardless of your worldview, you can be a proponent of the Judeo-Christian ethic.
Right.
You could be an atheist and think
Right.
this is better than Marxism. Yeah, okay, welcome to the Judeo-Christian ethic. It says that the circles go outward in responsibility, meaning my first responsibility as a Christian is to God. I answer
Right.
to him. Next, it's my spouse.
Right.
That's that next circle out.
Right.
If I don't have those two right, I'm kind of useless as a parent.
Right.
Right. I can't be a better parent than a spouse. I can't be a better spouse than a child of God.
Right.
Now I'm a neighbor. Right.
Right.
Now my regional influence, maybe my business.
Right.
Now I start talking about, am I able to impact truly big global things if I have those pieces in place?
Right.
There's a great book that was written, however, about the opposing worldview. This is where you'd get a lot of the elites, the elite thinkers, like, the ultimate example perhaps being Hitler, right? He didn't have close friends, didn't have a great relationship with his wife or his kids, but he was trying to save the planet.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's really what he was trying to do. I mean, he had a disastrous, horrible plan for doing so, but in his mind, he was getting rid of the diseased and the sick and the inferior, making it better for utopia for all of us. That's in his mind. Like, okay, since he's out here thinking big picture, I'm changing the world. He justified being a horrible person.
Right.
And you see that thought process in a lot of progressive
thinking.
If I'm saving the planet, if I'm driving an electric car, or if I'm, into the big causes of the day, that makes me a good person. And it's less important if I'm taking care of my kids.
Right.
Being a good spouse and walk with God, that's irrelevant, right?
Exactly.
So are you playing out here?
Right.
Or are you playing in here where the foundation truly is?
I like that.
Strong families, strong cities.
Yeah. And you actually, Confucius actually said that famous quote from him that
really?
He said that if you cannot take care of your family, you are not qualified to take care of the country.
Yeah, I like that guy more all the time, man.
Yeah, he
had a lot of biblical wisdom in the things.
He was very wise.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Definitely, they're looking forward for the next one.
Thank you so much, Pingdon. It was my pleasure and honor. Hopefully, I didn't ramble on too much, but I'm passionate about these topics, as I know you are.
Great.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, see you next time.
All right. Talk to you soon. God bless you, my friend.